Hello, everybody. This is Mary Hollywood at the Crossroads. Something that I really hope to accomplish here is just to open up a conversation. We live in a moment where people don't even talk to each other anymore. Trust is gone. So I hope that, when you listen to the topics that we bring forth in the show, they're just conversation starters that you can have with your family, your friends, your coworkers. Today, we're going to have a special edition of our Ladies of Direction at the Crossroads talking about Big Pharma. Now, especially in the middle of a pandemic, it's so important for us to have these conversations. Now, there's this huge rhetoric that, the anti science faction is rising in America. And I'm not exactly sure that I agree with that. I think that I don't believe people are anti science. What I believe is that people simply don't trust the for profit system that has taken hold of our healthcare system. So I think that these are valid concerns so we can get to solutions, not just, condemning one side or the other. So I hope that you guys listen with, open ears and open hearts. And like I said before, it's a conversation starter. So let's discuss what, the different aspects of this conversation entails. So thank you so much for meeting us at the Crossroads. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation by Kim, Kristin, and Lori.
Welcome to this edition of At the Crossroads with the Ladies of Direction. Today we have Lori Evangelista and Kristin Scapina. Today we are discussing Big Pharma. And my name is Kimberly Dellahan. I am sitting in for Mary Hollywood. Taking the subject of Big Pharma, it's a huge can of worms. Kristin, when
Yes.
when the word Big Pharma, two words, Big Pharma, are presented to you, what does that mean to you?
To me, I just think it's insidious and evil, quite honestly. Controlling. It's controlling every aspect of how you raise your children. I don't have children, thank goodness. I would be beside myself if I had a child right now.
Yes.
Lori, same question.
Yeah. When I think of what Big Pharma stands for, I mean, of course we know big pharmaceutical, but it is like Kristin said, it's about control. It's about rendering people powerless, thinking that they're helping people, and it's all, we should go back to preventative medicine, holistic stuff, but the Big Pharma is about like quick this, quick that, and getting people hooked. And I've had firsthand effects on my life from the big pharmaceutical companies and how that was dispersed, and I know a lot of people that have as well, and I can vouch for people that have been their lives have been lost at the expense of just greed and money and power and all that. So yeah, I agree with Kristin. And it just stands for evil and just darkness. It's addiction, a complete addiction, dependency.
I would say that it's not really even about healthcare. It's more about sick care at this point. It's about keeping you in the system and only controlling some of the aspects of your disorder or disease without getting to the root of the problem, which is, more naturopathic remedies. And the Rockefellers were the primary family that brought us Big Pharma, in the early 19th century. He pretty much made a laughingstock of anybody that was using natural remedies and created colleges, and then found the components that were in the natural remedies and created chemical versions of that. And that's Big Pharma.
And that's white privilege.
I don't know that I don't feel privileged.
No, that's white privilege. That's the Rockefeller. The white privilege did that. You see what I'm saying? Well, I'm trying to say that white privilege did that. You know, because if you look back on like different remedies, like you said, more homeopathic remedies, like Dr. Sabi. We get into a whole big thing. I could go into a whole big thing about, you know, if we watch Nipsey Hussle, he was in the process of bringing that movie documentary back out again. I mean, things were there is a reason. And also going back to our rainforest right now, we need to save these rainforests because the Amazon rainforest, that's the heart and lungs of our climate. And in that are the indigenous people, but in those forests are remedies, are natural healing remedies.
Yes, that is
it's
where
like
the research is done. They find the naturopathic remedies and they synthesize it to synthetic form so that they can patent it and charge exorbitant rates.
I know.
I was just looking up a bit of the history of regulation, government regulation when it comes to Big Pharma, and they had no regulation up until the turn of the century in the early 1900s. They started to regulate because there were a lot of snake oil salesmen with the efficiency of these drugs. And not until about 100 people died from one drug that they had to then prove that they were safe for consumption. And the FDA was formed to regulate that. But fast forward to 1992, there was such a backlog in approval for the FDA that Congress changed the rules so that the pharmaceutical companies pay the fees to the FDA for the testing, so that the pharmaceutical companies became the client of the FDA, and they were working to please that client because they were paying the bills. And then it just started snowballing with direct-to-consumer advertising, and you know, the Big Pharma that we have today, which in 2018, Pharma Group spent $280 million in lobby it just in 1 year. So I guess, and also I don't know if everybody is aware that the director of the HHS, Alex Azar, was the top lobbyist and head of U.S. operations for Eli Lilly, which is one of the largest and oldest
I'm aware.
companies.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
Yeah, me too.
So
I'd have to say that in this environment, that the way things are set up now, it would be hard not to have somebody, the head of HHS, that would be approved that isn't part of that system. You couldn't have some naturopath get into that job. I mean, that's just how corrupted it is.
mhm.
So
They've definitely surpassed the oil lobby, every other lobby. The pharmaceutical companies spend the most on lobbying.
And
By
you
far.
think how sick people are getting, how addicted people are getting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took, for example, just a pill for like they put you on for like post-herpetic nerve damage, because I had a nerve thing in my nose. This Neurontin, I mean, the gabapentin, but anyhow, it's a controlled substance, so they don't tell you. You just can't get off of it. You have to wean yourself off, and then you're lucky if you're not getting really sick trying to wean yourself off this stuff. So it's everywhere, and it came, it's been going on, and the push really came in like the early 2000, like through the 2000s, and that opiate. I mean, people were just pushing it, because I know I went to the doctor for a nerve pill, or I didn't know what I just needed something. I was in the middle of almost at the end of a bad marriage, and just divorce was looming, and it was just a hard time, and I just needed something. I was having panic attacks, and they put me on the most addictive stuff they could put me on, and then I was so ignorant of it back then. This is when my knowledge started. This is when my education started. You know what I mean? And so I got addicted to Xanax. Well, no one told me, and then they kept upping it and upping it and upping it till I was taking a big, large amount a day. And the doctor just said, "My God, that girl's small. Do you think she should be taking 4 milligrams a day?" You know, but no, because then the doctors get a certain percentage of what they give to their patients. So
Right.
it's like being a legal drug dealer, and that's what makes me upset, because when they outlawed marijuana and made it Schedule I drug, they incarcerated all these people, and then then they just legalized drug dealing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the big pharma could be a drug dealer, but they could do it legally, and they could just get people addicted, and they could just make tons of money off of it. So it's so complex. I can't even. I can go on and on.
The predatory practices of Big Pharma have ruined lives, and they're continuing to ruin lives to this day. Now, if we were to bring the current pandemic into the picture, into the conversation with Big Pharma and how they stand to profit with these stimulus bills and everything coming from Congress, they are pumping money into research for treatments and for vaccines with our tax dollars. And there's nothing in these bills that gives anything back to the government. They will profit off of the research that we're paying for. And not only that, they're charging exorbitant prices, like thousands of dollars for treatments that they'll be charging back to the government for Medicaid. And so I'm just wondering what your views are on the COVID epidemic and Big Pharma's role. Kristin?
Well, I would say I have a lot to say about that. I just got flushed. I get so angry. Not only that, the people that are at the head, like Fauci and Tedros, and the people at the NIH, I believe Fauci's wife also works at the NIH. They all are intermingling with the patents. And then if something comes out like the hydroxychloroquine that is 61 cents a pill, but it must be taken with the zinc and the erythromycin, that is a $100 cure. But they want to push remdesivir, which is $1,000. So they'll do Gilead sponsored like a fake trial of hydroxychloroquine without the other two components and they only did it late stage on the veterans, and they died. So then they published their own results saying that hydroxychloroquine will kill you, because they don't want something that's affordable, that we already have, that's been used. It was used during the SARS COVID outbreak, but that wasn't as bad. And it was fine then, but now it's not fine. And so they have to, they want to make billions of dollars. And then we have Bill Gates, and there's all this bunk information online saying like he's a humanitarian, he's not going to make money off this, he's giving it away. That is a lie. He's going to make 20 times what he invests in the vaccine. But these people are so powerful, they literally can pay journalists to debunk anything that goes against them, any drug that is going to make their drug look bad. And it's like, if you do the minimal amount of research, you can find the truth. But Americans are so used to being spoon-fed garbage that and then all the media outlets will parrot the same lie. And so people actually think hydroxychloroquine will kill you.
Gilead.
Why do they want you not to have a 61-cent pill with a Z-Pack in early, when you're first diagnosed with coronavirus? Because it's not financially doable. Could you imagine? This is what our Medicare should be backing, because if we actually want a Medicare for all, don't we want drugs that are already proven? I think we have a lot of cures that we already have the drugs for. But, Big Pharma doesn't want that. They want money for grants. They want to do the research. They want to come up with new things you have to have. We have cures for many things already. If we're really going to talk about having a legitimate Medicare for all, a system that works and doesn't bankrupt the country, we should really, like, we need to hold their feet to the fire and say, like, there are cures that exist and they're affordable, and we could have a healthcare system that is financially responsible. But it's such a machine at this point that, and I think the more people are educated, then we're going to be able to take back the power and just be like, I'm not going to take remdesivir. I'm not going to get, I'm not going to get your vaccine. You're telling me I can't fly to Europe? Then I'm not going to Europe. I'm not going to submit to that. And we have to get more people educated to say, like, then you get the travel industry involved, and they're going to be like, we're not going to check your vaccine passport. Get on the plane. It's all, we're more powerful than we think. And they've got us convinced that we're small and we have no power, when the fact is there's more of us than them. And they use all this, I'm really going off, Kim, but I'm sorry, but they use all this other nonsense to keep Americans divided. Mm-hmm. The media throws out like the race issue, the gender issue, the stupid bathroom issue. And we're over here on the other side of the room arguing about crap that doesn't matter, instead of figuring out where we're united as Americans that just want the best for our families. And that's intentional. That's to keep a bunch of petty stuff going, so we don't look over to what they're doing, and we're distracted by the crap that they're doing behind closed doors, when really we're more powerful. And that's what is probably the most threatening to them, is that we wake up and say, we're not going to put up with this. We are not going to put up with this.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Amen to you. That was great.
Absolutely. Education, communication, conversations like this gives us our power back, instead of waiting to see what the next headline says, where we should be putting our energy.
Definitely.
So your work with kids, Lori, what is your experience with pharmaceuticals and teaching? Do you see any problems and addiction with pharmaceuticals with your students?
Yeah, well, yes, in my career, I've always taught kids most of the time with emotional disturbance, or emotional disabilities. And so these could range from just slightly behavioral disorder to like really serious stuff where it's right incarceration or whatever it may be. Or so, yeah, throughout my career, most of the kids that I've taught since the early 90s, I've been teaching since 93, that there has been some sort of medication for ADHD or for, the kids are taking tons and tons of medicine. And what I've seen, it seems like they have a multitude of different things that they put these kids on. I'm surprised their systems can even really take it. But again, I have also taught kids that don't just have disabilities, but also have mental illness. It's like they could have schizophrenia or bipolar. They could have a lot of different things on top of their disability. So they treat those, the doctors are treating all those, and then, and then they're taking stuff for all this other stuff, and I've seen addiction. I've seen how the kids are like basically zombies, where they fall, they were so hyper, and they're trying to overcompensate for it, but it's just not working, and it affects their appetite, it affects their weight. The kids aren't, they're not having energy. I mean, it contributes to a whole gamut of stuff, and then, just recently with this medical marijuana thing coming in, I know that I've been in contact with a lot of doctors that my kids were used, that they were a big proponent of that, and that did help a lot of kids. I just talked to a mother the other day that who I thought her son was on a lot of stuff, and she said that he's gotten on that medical marijuana. He's doing great, and the police around. I mean, if you guys know, you've heard of Penn State University, but I live close to there. But Penn State University is a cute town. It's called Happy Valley. It's cultured, so it's kind of a college. It's really you know, a still small, sweet city, but the kid that I taught was known around the cops knew him. Everybody could see would, you know, have these behaviors, even on all this medication that was supposed to stop it. Then when he got on this medical marijuana, his mother just reported to me, this is just recent, and this is just funny, we were talking about this now, that she said he's been on that medical marijuana and the police haven't been called. He's been great. He's eating normally now. Because, you know, when you're on some of those other drugs, and I can even vouch for that, sometimes they take your appetite away, and you just don't even get, it's poison into your body, basically. And so I've seen a lot of kids go through withdrawals, and that's another thing. When you're a kid and you really can't, I mean, these kids can speak for themselves, but they really can't in a sense. They're not, you know, and so when they're feeling really sick because of a withdrawal, because these doctors will whip you right off one, take you on another one, and they're experiencing that stuff, and then they're trying to learn on top of that, then have emotional. So it's a mess. And I can speak about the education system right now. We are in dire straits.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I know when the ADHD drugs started coming out, I guess it was like the 90s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah, but I think the early 90s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to put a child on medication that they're gonna have to take for the rest of their lives, like Ritalin or Adderall.
Yeah, Adderall, and people, then they're using it, it's so addictive.
Mm-hmm. So they a lot like the tobacco industry, where they really target. So they have a lifetime client.
That's a whole other thing that I'm very passionate about too. That nicotine. I was a smoker for over 30 years, and that nicotine, I know how powerful that is. But those things that those kids are smoking, those Juuls and all those things that those kids are smoking, are so powerful. They have so much nicotine in them, far more. And the kids are smoking them down. And they taste like cherry or like honeydew punch or whatever it may be. And they're, you know, and I'm worried, like you said, Kristin, earlier, you would probably be a mess if you had kids. Well, I have a 19-year-old and I have a 21-year-old. And I am like, it's lucky that my nerves I'm not back on those pharmaceutical pills. I'm thank God for my medical marijuana. But anyhow, I'm just saying that it is not good for those kids out there. My son is addicted to one of those things, and I'm just very concerned about it. It's all, they fashioned it, the tobacco companies, at the expense of the kids and of lives and of addiction. The greed that how they packaged that and did that to make it safer than cigarettes.
Yeah, I'm still addicted to nicotine, I gotta tell you. I was going to quit when the COVID happened. I was going to quit April 1st, and I was alone in my house. I live alone. And then some study came out that said that like people that smoke were less likely to get COVID because it can't attach to your lungs because you've got that crap on there. So I was like, I'm going to continue smoking so I don't lose my mind. And then when this is over, I'm done. But I've given up everything. I am a recovering addict, so I've done everything and then some. Yeah.
I've had rehabilitation twice in my life, and I'm all for. I just got done working for a company where I work teaching these traumatized kids, and the company I work for is a big, huge rehabilitation company. And then they also have schools. They have these special schools that take the kids that the school districts can't handle, because these behaviors are so intense that the school districts are like throwing them out. And then these schools are money makers, but what happens is then it's you know. But I know it's anyhow. I don't want to take up that, but yeah. So I've been recovered, and I worked for that pyramid, that healthcare system that was the rehab is what I want to say. And I went through the different programs. And I had my master's degree when I went through the programs. And I said, you know, I'm in this company working for 8 years, you know, really working hard with these traumatized kids. And I said, we need education in the halfway house. We need to get that education right there in the halfway house, so that people that sit in there, and I'm going to tell you my story as a God-given story, that I was able to get in these places where I would never be able to be. And then dealing with my own stuff, but then being with other people. and seeing this. So I was advocating for these education in the halfway houses, but this is what's happening. I'm an advocate for this, that I went to my company and proposed it and everything like that. And they were like shooting me down, saying these other things. And I know, because I was in there, I know what's offered. I know what the girls get. And I know what lax stuff it is. So when I went to the company, I finally, after all these different things, I realized, and I've left the company now, I'm back in the public schools again, but I don't know how that's going to go. But anyhow, but the company was more willing to dismiss me and not put that education in and just continue let them be sick, because that's more money for our rehab. Our rehab's getting more money. We're getting more money bringing these people in. Why put an education Well, I could go in there. I was volunteering my time. Can I go in there 2 nights a week and see who's interested in it? And I bet that program would have blown up. It would have blown up, and we could have had a huge, big education program and a whole other. We could taught emotional intelligence is a big thing right now. We need to teach emotional intelligence. I have my certificate. I did my master's degree in emotional intelligence, and I've taught these kids all my life. And I've also just taken a certificate in certification in emotional intelligence coach. But what it is the fact that it's unreal. But I could go on about. I don't mean to go on about that, but when you said about being overcoming addiction and different things, and how the companies work, and the very companies that are supposed to help us recover, get a medicine or whatever it's supposed to be, do this or do that, they're working completely against it.
Mm-hmm.
They're working against
their bottom line. If people get better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that kind of I wanted to sort of piggyback off when you were talking about ADD and ADHD, is that I kind of feel that Big Pharma creates these disorders in order to come up with a medication to sort of just like deaden the children. Why weren't we coming up with behavior mod? Was a big thing in the 70s. My mother was a counselor. She worked with autistic children, and they met the kids where they are, and you teach them how we all have shortcomings. You teach children how to work with that. You don't deaden them from the inside and then expect them to be able to go out and deal with conflict resolution.
Right, and produce any work, because they can't better keep their eyes open half the time, or they're all in a different reality from that medicine. You're completely right.
Oh, yeah, it's very strange. My mother has her master's in psychology, and she worked in autism in the 70s with Bernie Rimland, who's very renowned. And their whole thing was like, there's different levels of autism, not as big as it is today, because now we have to include every child that doesn't fit into some disorder, because we have to label every child with something. But their whole program, she worked at a school, and they made a documentary in the 70s. Called Time's Lost Children. And the school was called Los Niños down in San Diego.
I'm writing that down.
But it was about behavior modification. And I remember the sort of after effects of that was like there was some backlash, like it was some weird mind control from the opposing side. Probably Big Pharma came in with this other narrative. But ADHD and ADD, that wasn't around. Those are just children that have a lot of energy and have a hard time focusing. But it's a moneymaker. So if you don't want to spend time, and it probably starts in the home, to be quite honest. Maybe they're not getting the attention they want, but then the teachers can't deal with it, so you just put them on something. I think we have a lot of probably disorders that are people that just don't know how to deal with certain areas of life and living life on life's terms, and just being able to deal with like the ups and downs. We've gotten to a point in this society. I actually I was married, and this is when I knew my marriage was at an end. My husband, who was 50 years old, said to me, "I just want to be happy." Now that is absurd. Like, you can't experience happiness if experienced tribulation, but we've been so ingrained by the media, the movies, that everything's supposed to be perfect. And if it's not, we're going to create some stink, or there's something wrong with you. You need to go to a 12-step, or you need some drugs, you need psychotherapy. It's just a bunch of hooey. Like, we're not raising kids from a young age, like you said. And I've seen Kim with her child as well. Just like meeting them as like little small adults, little humans, instead of babies, and coddling them and not letting them experience disappointment. I'll tell you, I wasn't raised that way. My father is ex-military, and not in a bad way, but it was like we knew what was expected of us, what was right, what was wrong. If we wanted to try, I was an ice skater, so my mom let me ice skate. And at one point I asked for like another round of lessons, and she literally said to me, well, you're never going to be an Olympian, so I'm not going to do it. And at the time that was harsh to me, but looking back as a grown-up, she was just saying, I spent a lot of money already. You're not that good. You're just not that good. Enjoy it for what it is, and then move on to something else. You know, and those were like the olden days when people were keeping it real. And I have a lot of memories like that of when I was a kid, and I was like, wow, that was harsh, or that was rude. But you know what? That made me the person I am today, where I'm like, I don't give up on stuff if I really believe in it. I'm not going to quit. I may cry about it, but then I'm, get it over with, spit it out or swallow it. That's one of my favorite sayings. It's like, go ahead and wallow in that, and then pick yourself up. We kind of have raised a whole generation of kids that think they should get stuff for not working hard. You're just as good as the kid next to you in soccer. No, you're not. You're not. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, that's a whole nother topic, but people need to have some personal responsibility in everything and not look to outside help, outside medications. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Rant secured.
Yeah. You made some very, very, very good points. And just to say about the behavior modification, that's all that I'm trained in. That's everything we make behavior plans for these kids. We do this for emotional support. And and lots of times the medication, whether they get it and it makes them zonked, or like say the parents at home aren't responsible and they're not taking it consistently, or the parents are selling a lot of times the parents are selling the Adderall, or they're taking the kids' pills, and the kids are not, sorry, I'm moving around. The kids aren't able to take it because the parents sold it. Then the kid is not getting the medicine on a daily basis on the right way. And then you have all these sporadic stuff that's going on. So I just want to say, that's where I want to come back to. And I have a lot to talk about down the line about emotional intelligence. And we got to look at a curriculum. We got to start looking at, this has to be part of the schooling, however it's going to look for these kids, because when there's kids so young that they're so angry and destructive, and also like the amount of like violence we see in schools and we have seen in schools, we need to really focus. We got to get the emotional intelligence under control. We got to get to it.
I'm just looking up the just to maybe pivot to the opioid addiction, which could be these kids that are given pharmaceuticals at a young age learn to trust, or just get used to taking these pills. 50,000 drug opioid overdose deaths in this country in 2017. And this is just breaking up families, putting kids into, children are born with addiction. They're put into foster cares. The network is not big enough to handle these children that are being abandoned because their parents are addicted to these opioids. And the pharmaceutical companies are not really being held accountable. They're maybe in their pocket, like they're paying some fines, which, nobody's going to jail, for this behavior. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it's definitely seems like there's a pipeline there with pharmaceuticals going from it's like the gateway drug in the childhood, and it just goes downhill from there. You know, not that everybody, you know, dying from opioids was on some kind of medication when they were kids, but I think it definitely opens the door to feeling like you need a pill to cope.
Definitely. That was a good point, Kim, because
Well,
definitely that habit of taking a pill, I know in my life it was a big deal. I mean, you know, that habit of taking a pill, it gets psychologically in there too. And so it's like a placebo, you know, when they try to judge you and stuff like that. That's the whole thing. And I know those kids, that's a good point, that the kids get used to taking pills and then go on as adult, go on and it's like a gateway open other you know, drugs down the line. But that's another really good point.
How do you think that we can, as a community, as Americans, responsible adults, work against the system or try to rectify or course correct where we are now? Kristin?
Well, it's something major to, like, you can't even whittle away at it, because if you start on like a naturopath level, then you have like big tech trying to shut you down. They're also in bed with all of this. In it that we made lobbying okay, and that they're treated as citizens, that was like we were ordinary citizens were cut out of anything that's going to be good for them all across the board. Not even just big pharma, but every decision, you know, that those lobbyists do. It's not for Americans. It's for, you know, the corporate scumbags, and then the politicians are buying stock in these brands and supporting them, and they're getting, you know, essentially they're getting mansions and whatever, living the high life. They're all in bed together. So I don't understand why lobbying is legal. That would change everything.
We need to abolish lobbyists.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yes. We agree with you. Yes.
Yeah, there needs to be a big push for that, as well as term limits for Congress and insider trading laws. Like, Congress should not be able to hold stock in anything while they're in office.
Problem. Another thing that I think is important is that we just, you know, make people aware, like we were talking about earlier. Awareness is the key, because people are not aware. I mean, as much as we have going on, when you start talking Big Pharma, sometimes they're like, what? Oh, well, no, you know, they don't. And then you have to really keep the conversation going in a way that, you know, you're not coming at them trying to like force it down their throat, but you're also making people aware, being an activist. That's what I swear I'm getting ready to my job thing is starting to like go. I don't know, like I just transforming it into a teacher, activist. I don't know, whatever. I'm just here to tell people and share knowledge that can help further our country and help us as citizens of the United States. We, you know, like Marianne said, you know, we started out with things that weren't right, but we did stand. Our country does stand, you know, we're supposed to stand for justice, you know, morality, helping other neighbors. And right now, that's not where we are. We're so far from that. But we can think of it. We have to join with higher conscience, you know, being around people that have higher conscience levels. And then we can do this. Like we are stronger. It's like Kristin, you were saying earlier. There's a few of them in comparison to what we have as the love of the world. I mean, we have the nation. The nation's strong, and the majority of people are good people that want that. And so I just feel like I'm just going to have my voice be heard. I love this because I live in Pennsylvania, which I have no idea how I end up here. But this is where I'm stationed. So I just need to be here for a minute and see what I need to do, and then, you know, just keep talking and let my voice be heard.
Well, thank you both for coming on today as our Ladies of Direction and discussing Big Pharma and the role that it plays in our lives.
for having me, Kim.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having me. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you,
These-
Chris. Nice meeting you, Kristin.
These are the discussions that
You too.
that move the country forward. So thank you so much, and I love you guys.
Right.
Have a great day. And
Yes. Have a great day, girls.
thanks for
Love
meeting at
ya.
the Crossroads.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Hollywood.